This is the Thrive Podcast with Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. And now, Pastor Fred Jeff Smith.
Hello, welcome to another edition, I'm starting to lose count now, another edition of the Thrive Podcast with the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. I'm Fred Jeff Smith, pastor of Shiloh, and I am very, very happy today to welcome Mr. Corey Brownfield, who is the founder of CREAM.
Yes,
and I'm going to let Mr. Brownfield explain. CREAM is an acronym. I'm going to let him explain what the acronym CREAM stands for.
Yes, the acronym CREAM, it stands for Kids Rule Everything Around Me. And it's kind of where God has kind of pushed into my life what I would be doing and how I would use my platform to give back to kids and make sure kids have the opportunity to be the best they can be.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share with us today. And for those who are viewing, just out of viewer sight, we have three young people who are a part of the CREAM program, one of which is Mr. Brownfield's son, and he brought two buddies with him. And before it's over, we might be able to get them to say something or at least come shout out at the screen or something like that. But they're sitting here today, and I'm very happy to have them here, too. First time we've had an audience when we did this, so this is all brand new to us. Tell me your story. You were sharing with us before we started recording. Tell me your story. Who is Corey Brownfield?
Well, I'm a graduate. I'm Baton Rouge born and raised. I'm very serious about my community, about our city, about the growth and development of our city. And I'm a kid that just had the right guidance. I'm a guy that had the right guidance, the right coaches, the right mentors, the right leaders in my life that helped me get to the point where I knew I could help others. And I understood that, I could be a creature of change in this city with my platforms. Well, the CREAM aspect, I went to Southern Lab in high school, had a great background from Southern Lab. I was able to go to earn a college scholarship to Grambling State University. Went to Grambling, graduated in 3 years in business marketing. Went on to work for Wells Fargo Financial, which was a great opportunity to actually hear my coaches every day talk about corporate America. I had a coach, Melvin Spears, who was my offensive coordinator, and he beat that into our heads mentally, just drove it into our heads about corporate America, being prepared for the next step, not being late, always being on time, always being accountable. And just from having my high school coach, Eric Rondo, then having Doug Williams as my college coach and all the great assistant coaches, I think that molded me into the man I am today to be able to overcome adversity and to just be able to lead and not be scared to fail. After my Grambling experience, I started a company with two of my friends, CREAM. It was CREAM at the time. It was CREAM Entertainment at the time.
Okay.
And we were doing like parties and concerts. Through my business background, I was always able to bring people together. So we started that company, and it was going well. Everything was going well, and I happened to have a little son coming. My son was coming, and I just told myself I'm not very proud of this. It's something I do, as a promoter. But I just told myself I want my son to be proud of me when he gets here. I want him to be able to look at me and say, "My dad's great. My dad's doing something to give me a chance and give other kids a chance." So I kind of shaded away from the nightlife entertainment side of it, and I moved into working with kids. That story is even funnier how that happened. Not funny, but it's life-changing how that story happened. Me going to Southern Lab, I had a background of, kind of a privileged kid. Some of the things that were going on in the inner city community, I wasn't seeing those things,
Right.
My parents, I come from a two-parent home. My family was very structured, very family atmosphere, so I didn't see, too much of a single-parent home, too much of the kids that didn't have anything to eat. I just didn't know that side of it. So as I got a call from Dr. Peoples at Southern University. She asked me to come speak to the kids for Career Day. At the time, I was working for Wells Fargo, but I still had CREAM Entertainment, which was a nightlife promotional type of situation. I went to visit those kids at Crestworth and talk to them about what I was doing as a profession, and just to motivate them, inspire them. And while I was there, two kids had a fight. A coach took the kids in the locker room while we were doing Career Day and made two kids fight, and one kid wound up getting his skull fractured. So they had no coach. So she called me back again, and she was like, "Can you come coach the kids? I know you have an athletic background. Can you come help these kids?" And I said, "I'll come and check it out a few days, and just help them get it off the program off the ground." But I didn't feel like I had the time.
Right.
But God had another plan for me. I thought that I wouldn't have the time, but I went. I started helping the kids, and me being an athlete, my juices start back flowing when helping the kids. So I said, I want these kids to know me. I want to know the kids. I want to know where they come from. I want to know how to reach the kids. So I made them all write short essays about themselves. And one kid, it haunts me to this day still, Chris Williams. He was a great basketball player. And in reading his story, he talked about how he wanted to be an engineer. He wanted to be a basketball player. And this kid was very smart. Didn't realize his mom was a drug dealer. And he wrote in the story how he felt he was going to get killed any day. And when I saw that, I was like, whoa, this is alarming. So I talked to the kid. He told me a story that he felt like he didn't want to go home because so much things were going around outside his home as well as in his home.
And this is middle school.
This is middle school.
And he thought he could die at any day.
At any day. And
Keep going.
I asked the principal, could I go pick him up? But I was so new in education at the time, I didn't go pick him up. She said kids can't ride in your car, so I didn't go pick him up. By 5 o'clock that day when I got home after practice, he wasn't at practice. I got home, I looked at the news, and yes, it showed him being murdered, and it just melted me. It just took everything out of me, just because I knew I had gotten adapted to helping the kids, and for a kid who had just written me an essay about his life, that I couldn't help him.
Right.
It hurt. It just hurt me that I could not help that kid, and from that day on, whether administrators or allowed me to pick up kids, I always did moving forward, because I knew some kids might not have a ride or opportunity to get to practice. So I took those group of kids. They wound up going and winning the middle school championship 3 years in a row. They wound up never losing the football game. I became the athletic director at Crestworth Middle, and the football coach and basketball coach. And under my leadership, those kids never lost. And I said, you know what? It has to be a next step for these kids. I know we're at the middle school sector, but I don't know what's the next step. So Cleo Fields, he observed what we were doing with the kids, and he reached out. He said, Corey, can you come coach our team? I see what you're doing. If you come, it'll help the kids with resources, and it won't be as hard on you. And we went over with Louisiana leadership. The kids wound up finished 4th in the nation. I thank God he was able to help the kids, because at the time I didn't know how we were going to fund it or help the kids, all these trips going all over the nation. We wound up finishing 4th in the nation that year, and I got another call. It was Mr. Jim Bernhardt, and he called me and he said, can you coach our team the following year? I went over and coached that team, and I was able to bring some of those inner city kids to that team, so they got a chance to see both sides of Baton Rouge. And it was an interesting thing to see them, some of those kids not know how to interact with other kids, and as time went on, they were all like best friends and best buds. But we took that team, we were able to go and win the entire national championship. I'll never forget that day. It was life-changing for me, because he came in the room and he said, Corey, can you go and talk to the kids and tell them to get their parents on the phone? I'm sending my private jet back to Baton Rouge to fly all those parents to the game. And he really did that. And all those parents came up and they got a chance to see those kids have success and win the national championship. And it was just the eye-opening project, the project, or just to see that happen. It was a priceless moment for me, for kids from the inner city who wouldn't have these opportunities to get a chance to fly all over the country in private jets, to just be a part of something they had never seen in their life, and it just motivated me to keep going on and on and on. When I started the company with my two friends, the only thing I asked could we spell cream with a K. At the time, I asked for that because I'm a Kappa. I didn't see what the plan God had for me. I didn't see it. I just didn't see it. So we spelled cream with a K, and we went on, and we did what we were doing for as the company. And as time went on, my partners went on to do other great things in their own individual rights, and I just kept cream going because I wanted to keep helping the kids. So they still help kids in their own capacity, but I wanted to keep that going. And And when I switched it from a entertainment spectrum or a nightlife spectrum, I thought about it. What am I going to call these kids' team? What am I going to name the team? And I looked at it and I said, wow, Cream. Kids rule everything around me. God had already had that plan. I just didn't realize it was set up exactly like that.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I realized what God was doing. I feel like my gift has always been to help others. And, but helping adults sometimes, it can get a little tricky,
Yeah.
But it can get a little tricky. It can get, it can go a little different sometimes. But with kids, they're genuine. If they make a mistake, or nobody's perfect, but if they make a mistake, you can help those kids redirect themselves or put them on the right track. And I knew with my passion for helping others, just directing that totally towards kids, I could make a difference. And
Well, clearly you've made a difference, not just as far as athletic ability is concerned, but you have been responsible, you and Cream have been responsible for children receiving scholarships to further their education.
Yes, sir.
300 young people have received scholarships to further their education. Talk about that.
Yes, that aspect is great. Me having a business background, me coming from a very structured educational system, graduating college in 3 years, I knew it was a bigger picture. So as much as I am about athletics, I'm also about education because that's my foundation. So it's been over the last 10 years, 7 to 10 years, we've been able to successfully help kids all over Louisiana and other states obtain not just athletic scholarships, but academic scholarships as well. So that's the piece nobody knows, but I'm just doing the work. I'm not, trying to get, all the accolades or anything for helping kids or putting them in different situations. But yes, sir, we've been able to successfully help over 300 kids get to college. So we have kids all over now, kids in Alabama, Mexico, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, Southern, Grambling, Morehouse, Clark. I mean, they're all over. Kids are just all over that have touched our program and have been a part of the process of me helping kids that's succeeding, that they're achieving every day.
Which kids do you concentrate on? I know you started off with middle school kids. So is that really your primary focus? Or you take
No,
them
sir.
From middle school all the way up to high school?
Well, we take them from actually kindergarten.
Okay.
And we build them up with just character building programs, not just all athletics, even some of the things we're doing right now. And that's why I want our kids to be able to see. You have to be able to speak. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to express yourself. So we take them from kindergarten all the way up. Basically, have to show their report cards. We have an academic chart. If your grades are not up to par, we're gonna sit you down, and you're gonna concentrate more on academics than athletics. So the kids know they all have to bring their report cards. They have to show their report cards. Even initially when you come into the program, we have to have that so we can evaluate where you are to where we think you should be in the future. So we take the kids from in the school year they do all the activities for their school, but in the summer times they come into my program. And with basketball, track, they do all that stuff. So, yeah.
How many helpers do you have? How
Well,
many do you have assisting you with all of this?
Well, it's broken down. We have basketball. We have 3 teams of basketball: 2nd and 3rd grade, 4th and 5th grade, and 6th grade, and it goes all the way to up 8th grade. So we help those kids on the Potter's track. We take them all over the country to different football camps, basketball camps. We have a youth track team that's growing every day. We started last year with only 8 kids, and now we're almost up to 100 kids on the track team.
Wow.
Yes, sir. And we're going to Disney for the national championship on July 7th through the 15th.
Wow.
So now we've been able to produce youth All-Americans. It's just a whole platform of me having a relationship with different college coaches, college administrators, to where when I have a kid that can be placed in different situations, we try to help them. Even from the standpoint where when I was at Southern Lab, if I called a coach, I would be very adamant about the kids and their situation and getting them that opportunity. So if I had to sit in the room all day and make 300 calls, and I think Wells Fargo prepared me for that business side of it. If I had to make call after call after call after call to different colleges to get them to see the kids' film, I would do that because I was lucky to always have good coaches, and that I feel like that helped me the whole way through. But I have stories of my friends telling me about how their coaches would hide their recruitment ladders. They never get their recruitment ladders. I'm like, I didn't go through that. So, when you see some of these schools and they have these.
What's the rationale behind that? Why would they? For what reason would a coach hide a recruitment letter? I'm just trying to understand that.
I wouldn't understand that either, but from my experience, some of the coaches just don't have the relationships with the college coaches. So it's not that they're trying to hide anything. They just don't have certain relationships with those coaches. And some of those, and what I tell people all the time, some of those ladders that come into those high schools, some of them are just questionnaires.
Okay.
You have to do your research, and you have to get on the phone and call those colleges, and basically sell your kids, sell what your kids can do, and sell their character. And at a small school at Southern Lab 5 years ago, we were able to have a team of about 40 kids, and 14 seniors went to school out of 40 kids. That's pretty amazing. It's 5A schools that can't send 14 to 16 kids to college.
Yeah.
So it's just all about just being committed to get them to the next level. And I like to tell parents, we're going to take your kid from the beginning where they are, and we're going to show you at the end where we can blossom them to be.
And this is for boys and girls?
Boys and girls, yes, sir.
Excellent. You were saying before we started taping that you also have a track team in New Orleans.
Well, volleyball team in New Orleans.
Volleyball team.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Volleyball, I just had a friend who was in New Orleans, and I talked to her and told her, look, you a college athlete, you can affect this community by your knowledge of what you learned with volleyball. So she was able to, I basically put a plan together on how she could get the kids, how she could basically get the facilities to provide the service for the kids, and she was able to make the program work. And I just basically assisted with anything she needs to help it grow, marketing and whatever we need to make that program grow. But she's the expert on the volleyball side of New Orleans. But that program is now growing from 11 kids to almost 200 kids now. So I have a plan to bring volleyball now to Baton Rouge, so we can keep growing that program as well. But a few years ago, I was the athletic director and head football coach at Capitol High School, and I was able to start the first inner city lacrosse team. And now we have kids in Baton Rouge. No, everyone thought I was like, they thought, he crazy. That's not gonna work. But I just think
one of the greatest football players of all time, Jim
Jim Brown,
was
yes.
a star.
I researched the whole thing. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Very good.
But you don't hear too much about lacrosse, especially down here.
Well, I thank Southern Lab for that as well. They sent me to a training in Boston, Massachusetts. While I was at that training, I'm a sports guy, so there's no way I'm going to be in Boston. I'm not going to go to Harvard's athletic department.
Right.
So I went and talked to the coaches. All the coaches formulated the relationships. They let me meet the lacrosse team. They let me meet the football players. And it was a kid from Compton, California. And I asked him, I said, how did you get to Harvard from Compton? He said, well, coach, this is with my football coach. I might have been a fourth-string football player in Cal Poly, but in lacrosse, I was a first-string guy.
Wow.
So his coach motivated him to start to take up lacrosse.
Wow.
So he played lacrosse, and now he's at Harvard.
That's amazing.
So I took that aspect and said, there's no way I'm going to learn this information and not bring this down to Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So we were honored at the state capitol for having the first ever inner city lacrosse team, and that's a program I look forward to keep developing in our area, because it can't be just basketball, football, track, the traditional sports. We have to open our kids' minds to the different things. It should be golf going on. It should be more soccer going on. It's just a lot of things that we can touch in Baton Rouge, and I'm trying to touch because as I look at, I show my son the statistics of Louisiana, and I show him, I said, it actually shows statistically it's the worst state to live in. And I showed him the opportunity here is 50, which out of 50 states,
yes,
we have the least opportunity.
Yes.
So we have to create these different platforms to try to make it out, to get a different way. He wants to be a lawyer, so I'm going to use all my resources to put him around different people that can help him obtain that goal,
yeah,
as well as with football. And with having these kids, like I said, we have kids at Alabama. We have kids all over. So we were able to go to the Nick Saban football camp this year, a few weeks ago, and there was 1,100 kids there. And I told my son, just do your best. Out of 1,100 kids, him and one of his friends came back as the top campers in their age group. So it's a long way from now, but in 2025, in Alabama's top recruitment class as a quarterback, they already know my son. So that's part of the platform of getting the kids, is putting them out there early.
Wow. You know that there's a huge Alabama following here in Baton Rouge. You'd be amazed, especially black folk.
Right.
They love Nick Saban and Alabama, and they love it when Alabama beats LSU. So
Right.
they've been having a high old time for the last several years.
Yes, sir.
But it's amazing the networking that you have been able to do on behalf of these children, and your work has been nothing but stellar, and you have a lot to be proud of. We had a young man here a couple of weeks ago as our guest, Byron Wade. And we were talking about
Great guy.
athletics and scholarship and GPAs.
Yes, sir.
And I believe last year or year before last, the High School Athletic Association dropped GPAs down
1.5.
to allow for kids who weren't doing well in the classroom to be able to continue to play organized athletics. What's your attitude about that?
I think in our state, in our city, that gives kids the opportunity who might be in the streets, at home, an opportunity to be a part of something. But I say I would be for it, because that's time you could take that kid and redirect him. If you take a kid that has a 1.5 and say, okay, we can't deal with him, he's not going to make it. But if you could take that kid that has that, because I mean, I've already did this model, this model. If you take a kid that has a 1.5, a kid that no one believes in, and you get that kid up to a 3.0 and they're able to go off and get scholarships,
Right.
you saved a life.
Right.
You got that kid out of a situation that if he stayed, his chance of living would probably be less.
Okay. Devil's advocate. That those who opposed the change said that you're making athletics more important than academics by lowering the GPA. You're giving kids an out so that they don't have to excel in the classroom in order to be a part of athletics.
Right.
What's your response
Well,
to that?
I think it should be benchmarks. It should be benchmarks. There should be some form of, I wouldn't say probation, but some form of monitoring kids to get them right, to get them on the right track. Because as I look at my TV every day, it's a kid dying every day in Baton Rouge.
Yes.
So if we could use those platforms to give a kid an opportunity to be successful, why not?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What's the spiritual component to what you do? This is Shiloh's Thrive
I'm
podcast.
going to tell you this.
And so I have to ask about the spiritual component of what
My,
it is that
my
you do.
mom, she has this great aspiration. She has a friend. Her best friend goes to Shiloh, Ella Shannon. That's her best friend. She has a in her mind, she feels that I'm going to be a preacher one day. She's been telling me that since I was 10 years old, 5 years old. And what I'm seeing, she told me this other day, she's like, you don't even realize you're doing this work right now. You don't even realize what's going on.
You are doing great work.
And when we huddle before we practice, we pray. I worked these kids out this morning. When we ended the practice, we prayed. So I find myself praying a whole lot more because I have these kids involved, and that's the standard. We keep God first, family, and school, then athletics. That's our motto. They know that. It's God first with our program. So as much as I can to be an inspiration to kids, to stay positive, to tell them when it get hard, ask God to keep pushing you, because you wouldn't be able to have this opportunity. He wouldn't put you in this position if you couldn't push forward to overcome the adversity that you're going through. So I didn't even realize what was going on. I'm being honest with you, that we pray so much because that's the standard. Before we practice, we pray. Before we break the practice, we pray. And it's just becoming more and more a part of me, and I'm understanding what's going on. It's not I'm in a situation anymore where I don't see what God is doing. I 100% see what God is doing with me, and my faith in Him has just taken it to another level. With what I'm doing with Cream Youth Sports, we don't have very many backers or people funding this program. God is just leading me, telling me what to do, and step by step, and we've been able to be successful. So the background with the aspect of the Lord, He's first in everything we're doing with our program.
That's wonderful. As a young man who deals with young people, I'm sure that you're aware that among African Americans, church attendance for young people is waning.
Right.
It's still above the average of other ethnic groups.
Right.
Black kids go to church more than white kids. Black kids go to church more than Asian kids. And black kids in the South, particularly, go to church more than black kids in other parts of the country. That being said, it's still waning. It's not as it was when, and I'm much older than you are, I'm 56 years old. When I was a kid, you ain't had no choice.
Right.
And,
that's how I was raised.
Yeah, okay. Well, these days it's not the same, and that's not to say it's good or bad, right or wrong. I know everybody thinks everything was better in the good old days. That's not that's not my point. My point is this: what is it that you think? What would be your counsel as a person who has been successful with young people and motivating young people? What would be your counsel to African American pastors and African American churches as far as the ability to reach out to young people and get them to be excited about coming to church? Because I don't see parents telling kids, no, you can't go to church. I see kids saying, I don't want to go to church.
Right.
It's boring. I don't want to be bothered with that. I've heard the same lesson 10 times. Why we got to go through that all over again? So what is it that we can do as churches and as pastors that will make young people like your children, like these young men who are here, want to be a part of a church experience?
Well, the same aspect that I used to basically I wouldn't say trick kids into education, but I held them accountable. Like if you look at the statistics, the most kids that go to the NFL is right here from Louisiana. Statistics show that. So if those kids those youth organizations were aligned with a church, and if that was a part of just the standard order of operations, with churches being involved, with the youth organization being involved with the churches, and just like I stated, as we pray, and that could be used as an avenue to get kids more involved with, because it's all about educating them on the word of the Lord, on schoolwork. It's all about the education of it. So if we can reach out to more youth organizations for as the sports programs and get them involved with the churches, like just running church leagues, that definitely helps. With just having different things where, like with our organization right now, we know we're planning a fish fry. If we did that at church for the organization, you automatically bring them in you're getting them at the church.
Right.
So I've been big on a component of bringing kids to like mass marketing, bringing them to that particular place, and then spreading the word on what's going on. Like we're just bringing in motivational speakers. You could bring a pastor in at the end of practice and invite the kids to church. You could bring the deacons in to the practice and just educate the kids on the Lord and the Lord's word, and that could help them as well. But I think if more churches had youth programs or reach out to the youth coaches to involve their youth programs within the church program, it would spread like wildflowers.
We are a part, Shiloh is a part of a larger association of churches called the 4th District Missionary Baptist Association. It's 200 some odd churches across 6 parishes: East and West Baton Rouge, East and West Feliciana, Iberville, and Point Capee parishes. We spend a lot of our time trying to develop a Christian education program. We have a once-a-year Congress of Christian Education. We have a once-a-year annual session. But the efforts that we have put forth to sponsor children's leagues have not been as successful. We compete with high schools. We compete with BREC programs. We compete with AAU, and we lose out on that by and large. How were you able to find a niche where you could compete with these other entities that were out there that were all geared toward young people?
How was I able to compete? Just basically selling my platform of, I'm be honest, parents trust me with their kids. They do. we're just creating a platform of just showing the love for the kids, showing the dedication. I did a lot of marketing on my own with showing different promotional videos of what my company is all about, what we're doing for the kids, and just showing that platform. And also just door to door. Like, also, if I see a kid in the supermarket, you play for a team? This is seriously what's going on.
I'm watching you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. You play for a team. You on a team. You're involved. What's your grade point average? Oh, Mom, we can help him get his grades up. If you let him play this sport with us, I promise you, by the time he's finished, by the second 9 weeks, he will have a 2.5. Or you don't even have to let him play anymore. Because I know that we can reel them in by what they want. They want the sports. So if we can reel them in and say, okay, and so I had to do this at Crestworth. These kids was not listening. Okay, you want to play football? You got to go to study hall before we go to football practice. And I took that motto based off what I learned in college. Before you go to practice, you got to go to study hall. Or you go to study hall after practice. But you're going to study hall.
Right.
Unless you have a 4.0 or, that type of situation. So, yeah, we instituted that at Crestworth. And those kids, honestly, were able to, a lot of people told me to stop working with those kids. They weren't going to be anything. Those kids, 8 of those kids were able to obtain financial assistance to go to high schools because of their grade point averages. And 8 of those kids are playing college football, and it's working out for them.
Yeah.
The only thing that I wish I could have done different, and I'm still trying to figure this aspect out, is how to save more kids. Throughout my situation with dealing with kids over the years, I've had 16 kids that have been either gunshot violence or just drug violence, just trying to pull those kids from the situation of what they were used to conform them to what we were trying to do with them. Right. It was some kids that strayed away from it, but it was some kids that kind of led back to their life, and I found out it was because their area, their background, they didn't have any other options. I dropped one kid off from an AAU trip, and he was the last kid. I'll never forget this kid. He told me in the van, Coach, can you drop me off last? I said, okay, I'll drop you off last. So I dropped him. As we go in this house, he's like, Coach, I don't want to go home. I said, why? And he's like, whatever you do, don't give my mama that money you was telling her for the lights. I'm like, why? He's like, just give it to me, or Coach, just go pay it yourself. And when I dropped him off, I saw that the mom was doing drugs in the house. And I understood what that kid was saying at the time. He didn't have another opportunity.
Wow.
He didn't have any options. So I'm wrecking my brain as we moved on to how to create these platforms for kids where they can go and talk to somebody. If they need to, possibly just live at an on-site school, we can put those kids in those type of situations. And I'm, my program is going good, but I wanted to get even better.
Right.
I want to add even more resources and arms to help us to save these kids' life. That's what I'm all about. And if I die trying, I'm okay with that. If I die trying to help as many kids as I can, that's what I'm committed to.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Have you been threatened?
It's been some crazy things before in the past. Yeah, it's been different situations with just parents, because I've been in some of the worst situations to pick kids up. Like, don't show up and pick my kid up. It's been a lot of different situations in the past where it was just, or go and pick a kid up in a rough environment.
Right.
Or you got to walk through all these guys standing right here to go get that kid. But that's what I've had to do sometimes to get it to this point, and to save those kids' life. That's what I've had to do.
You're an incredible young man with an incredible story. I heard you mention football. I heard you mention basketball. I heard you mention lacrosse. And you said that they need to be more involved in golf and other sports.
And tennis.
Didn't you
And
say
swimming.
anything about baseball? Now, I'm not a baseball fan.
Okay, you're right.
At
Okay,
all.
you got me here.
But I was just curious, what's the level of interest among young people when it comes to baseball?
Well, that's one thing we're trying to improve with our program. My son's sitting there. He's probably got a big smile on his face right now, because he's been like, Dad, we have to add baseball. We have to add baseball. Dad, I want to play baseball. So I think, because it's the highest paying sport. So we have to get our kids.
And the sport with the longest longevity. If you're successful, if you can make it into the major leagues in baseball, you can play for 20 years. And you can't say that about football. And you can't say that about basketball.
Right.
So my father, who pastored this church for 50 years before he passed, used to always say, my grandkids showed any athletic interest at all, I point them towards baseball.
Right.
Because you have the longest career, you make the most money, you don't have to get hurt.
Right.
You don't have to get hit all the time.
Yes, sir.
So it was interesting to me that I heard you mention all these other sports. I didn't hear baseball.
Well, with baseball, it's something we're gearing up to do, but we're going to need additional resources and sponsorship to help us get those programs rolling. It's just with me right now, we're gearing up to add a lot of different components, and baseball will be one as we move forward. You know, I know, like I told you, I'm letting God lead me with all these things, and He might be telling me through my son, because he's waking up every day. Can we do baseball? Dad, why you not letting me do baseball? So
and you're talking to somebody who doesn't like baseball. I am not a baseball fan.
I'm you.
At all.
I'm with you on that.
You know,
I'm with you on that.
But I do recognize, from an economic standpoint, that young men who make it into baseball can have stellar careers, long careers, and make a whole lot of money.
Yes, sir.
And there's not a salary cap.
It's
in
not
baseball
a salary cap, right.
like there are in other.
Right, 385 million or something like the largest contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just incredible stuff.
Yes, sir.
All right, you went to Grambling, so we'll let that pass. Who's your favorite football team? Pro football team?
49ers.
Oh, God. You see those Cowboys banners sitting there?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. So
Okay.
And in fact, it was your 49ers and Joe Montana that
That's right.
And it burst my bubble back when I was a college kid.
That's right.
With the catch. Dwight Clark just passed the other day, and I was sorry to hear that. But what's your attitude about the responsibility of professional athletes to give back to their communities and take stands with regard to social justice issues?
I'm glad you asked that. Right now, for the last 2 years, I've been running Ron Leary's football camps. We put camps on here in Baton Rouge, totally free to the kids, totally free. He brings down all his NFL friends every year, and this year we had almost 350 kids. So I've been running the NFL camps in Baton Rouge, and we've been able to see that. I might say something, you might say something, but when that NFL athletes tells their kids to do something, they're going to do it a whole lot faster.
Right.
And we're using those platforms, and I'm reaching out to a lot of my NFL friends to keep coming back. I did a program with Tim Williams. He asked me, he was a guy from this area who wound up going to Alabama as well. And he called me and said, Corey, I see what you're doing in Baton Rouge. Show me the kids I need to help. I said, okay, 70805. That's the worst area in Baton Rouge. I took him on a tour. We went to Struma High School. He went to class by class by class, then eventually to the football and basketball team. And he spoke about overcoming adversity. He spoke about, making the right choices. He spoke about how he lost over $10 million by making the wrong moves, about doing things the right way. And I watched those kids as he spoke to them, and I'm like, he reached that kid, he reached that kid, he reached that kid. And it was amazing just to see that. So that's one of the platforms I'm trying to use with a lot of I have a lot of NFL friends. So I'm trying to use that platform to keep them coming back, not just one time for the camp, but instill programs within the youth sports, instill programs in education. Let's meet with East Baton Rouge Parish and find out what things can we do as pro athletes, as successful business people to ensure that kids are getting all the resources. So that's one thing we're actually in the process of doing right now with Ron Leary Foundation. We're helping kids, and Tim Williams as well. So those are two guys I know that are from Baton Rouge, that made it out, that have millions of dollars now, that they're trying to come back and make a big impact.
That's wonderful. I noticed last night, as this is being taped, it's the day after the NBA draft, and one of the young man, I can't recall his name.
Jacob Evans.
Made it to the Golden State Warriors.
Jacob Evans,
in the first round.
Yes, sir.
And he's a Baton Rouge native
as
well. So Baton Rouge is on the map when it comes to athletics, and we want to be on the map when it comes to academics and when it comes to being successful human beings in this community. One of the things that troubles me, again, referring back to the conversation I had with Mr. Wade a couple of weeks ago, it troubles me that young people feel the need to leave Baton Rouge in order to make their mark in life. You mentioned it earlier,
Yes, sir.
that from a quality of life standpoint, we rank at the very bottom.
Right.
What is it that you think we can do to retain more of the talent that we have here in Baton Rouge, where they don't have to go to Houston or to Dallas or to Atlanta or to Nashville in order to be successful?
Athletically?
Overall.
Okay, well, Southern can stop letting people go to Grambling for one. I mean, we have enough talent. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just a transparent guy. We have enough talent in the city to where they really never have to even leave out of Louisiana or Baton Rouge per se to fill Mumford Stadium. Like, I mean, from an economical standpoint, if you have a kid from Baton Rouge, it's more likely they're gonna come. More people gonna come to the games. So, and there's an opportunity for that kid right in the city. So, we can kind of put a fence up of retaining our kids here, and I think Southern's getting a lot better with it, as well as LSU. We're starting to retain our kids. LSU just got the #1 athlete in the nation.
I saw that.
And he's from Baton Rouge, so he stayed home. So a lot of kids just want to get away from the violence. You know, they want to get away from the violence, and they want to get away from poverty, and they want to see something different. And I was a kid that I think me going away, it might have saved my life even more, because I was able to go somewhere where I could just focus on what I needed to do instead of the distractions of the inner city sometimes. You know, country, rural town. I was able to focus on my academics a whole lot more. I was able to focus on training a whole lot more. So, but what we can do to keep more of our kids going home, one is connect with the police department, Hilla Moore, the mayor, and find out what we could do to keep our city safe. I think we rank 48th in crime, 42nd in crime in the nation. So a lot of people are trying to run away from the crime.
Right.
You know, and honestly, sometimes when my kids have an opportunity to go do something different, I let them look at all options and make those decisions with their parents.
Yeah.
I look back at a situation, and I'm from the Glen Oaks area, and it just was a major impact. We had a kid, Ryan Francis, who signed with USC. Great athlete, came home on Mother's Day one weekend and was killed.
Right.
So, you know, it's just a lot of hatred in our city when we see people that make it. Instead of congratulating that person, it's an attack, or you know, and that's what we got to get out in Baton Rouge. We got to increase the love of everyone, and even with our little kids. And this is what I do with a little kid standpoint. When we play against another team, it might be a game where it's a little rowdy. The kids don't want to shake hands. I'll get with that coach, or we'll get together. Hey, coach, let's pray together, and we'll all pray together. And I make the kids stand. My kids are here. They can tell you this is really going on. Stand by a kid that's not your teammate. And we talk to the coaches, and we educate the kids on, one day you guys are gonna play against each other in high school. You know, you want to be like LeBron and D Wade. You know, they might be competitors, but when it's all over, it's all love.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to, and that starts as a foundational level at the bottom. So if we can get those kids loving each other at a young age, you know, it would be great. I can use Javonte Smart as an example. That kid is loved across the whole city. He's played with all kids all over the city. So he's the one kid I've saw that this year that everyone wanted to gravitate to. They want him to see him be successful, and I think because that's due to his relationships all over the city. You know, he had relationships with youth sports programs all over the city. So I think that's one thing we could do as youth sports programs for sure is get the kids together. And nobody told me to do that. That was just what God said. Like, get the kids together, pray together. And that aspect had it, because I think back when I was small, you have these rivalries where you would lose to a person or beat that person. Then later in high school, that same rivalry and that thirst or that aspiration to beat that person or that team, it still exists.
Yeah.
So if we can eliminate that and get the kids to understand it's all a game, and you're doing it for a big picture, which is to get to college one day, if this is what you choose to do, then I think that's one way to help bring the love and bring the city together. I
have thoroughly enjoyed this. I appreciate your coming and sharing your story with us and telling us. I didn't know about Cream.
Yes, sir.
This has been a learning experience
Yes,
for me. And I want to pledge that Shiloh is going to learn more about Cream, and I'd like to talk to you at some point in the future about how we might be able to play a role in supporting what Cream is doing for young people in this community.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Brownfield, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks so much, Pastor. Yes, sir.
That's the end of this podcast, and we look forward to the next one. Thank you so much for viewing and/or listening.